I'll go ahead and start. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Ollie Jones. I am the co-president of the Ohio Grandparent Kinship Care Coalition. Welcome to our monthly Zoom meeting where we provide various information that can support you as a kinship care provider. I do want to acknowledge my colleagues who are also on the Ohio Grandparent Kinship Coalition board: Ron Browder, Barb Turpin, Siobhan, so her name, and Lynn. So welcome to this month's Zoom. I want to also encourage you to pass the information to other people, other caregivers, grandparents, uncles, aunts, nieces, and nephews who are caring for someone else's child. Let them know that we have monthly Zoom meetings on a regular basis every month with some information that can be valuable to you in the care and help you in terms of raising your grandchild or niece or nephew. We have an exciting speaker today. Our next Zoom meeting will be November the 17th. So stay tuned for the topic. You'll be hearing more about that. But we're excited for the speaker that we have today because we all have children or grandchildren or someone who is doing school online, virtual school. And a lot of times they have homework where they have to go online and research information. So we want our grandchildren and our nieces and our nephews to be safe when they're on the internet. And we want to be safe too when we're on the internet. So we have an awesome speaker, Kathy, who is going to come to you and share some information about cybersecurity. Ms. Caffrey is the statewide outreach coordinator for the Ohio Internet Crime Against Children Task Force. Now that's a mouthful, but it also speaks volume in terms of the importance of having someone with her level of expertise to share information with us about how we can make sure that our children are safe on the internet. Kathleen spent most of her career in a nonprofit marketing before joining the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Office as Public Information Officer. In 2019, she jumped at the chance to join the task force, and her main responsibility is educating students, parents, civic groups, and corporations about the dangers of internet and how to keep our children safe. I'm gonna go a little further and say how to keep us safe too, because we know when we're on the internet, things pop up and we don't know if we should click on it or not. So thank you for your time. Thank you for coming and being a part of our monthly Zoom meeting. We are so excited to hear the information that you have. I have 10 grandchildren, so I definitely can take that back and share it with my grandchildren. At this time, Ms. Kathleen, thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for the warm welcome. I appreciate it, Dr. Jones, and for Barbara and Lisa for facilitating, coordinating this. I know I had to cancel due to a medical emergency back in the spring. So it's great to be out there again and feeling much better and happy to finally be here with you today. So I'm going to turn it over to my screen and we're going to start here from the beginning. As Dr. Jones said, I am Kathleen Caffrey. I just got married, so I'm adding the Garnett there. I'm with the Ohio Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. And a little bit about the task force. There are 61 of us across the country. And the Ohio Task Force is based in Cuyahoga County under the umbrella of the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. We have affiliate agencies throughout the state. We have Franklin County has a very large task force down there. They have a lot of the resources. They are kind of like a hub in central Ohio, and we also have one down in Franklin County. So the state is very well covered. We also work with Homeland Security. We work with the FBI and Secret Service. So we take this so seriously, and obviously being funded in part by the Department of Justice and the state of Ohio. But unfortunately, that last bullet point, you'll see that we are one of the busiest task forces in the country. Every year we're 3 to 5. And considering there are some states who have 3 task forces, like California, Florida has 2. Sometimes we outrank them in terms of cyber tips and cases that we investigate as it comes, to child safety online. So we arrest, identify, and prosecute individuals who use the internet to exploit children. So what does that exactly mean? Well, that means, we deal with, you see there's one of our investigators arresting an individual who, based on a search warrant, may have had child sexual exploitation material, which is, in fact, we call it child pornography, and I will still refer to it as that. But it is really what we're starting to call it in the industry, child sexual abuse material, because that's exactly what it is. To say that maybe it's something else when it is sexual abuse of children. So maybe this individual is a traveler and tried to meet with a minor for the purpose of having sexual relations, or if we had a search warrant and we're arresting him because his devices were flagged, and I'll explain how devices can be flagged with sexual exploitation materials. So, and also, and as the doctor said, I'm out in schools, I'm out in the communities. I talk to parents, guardians. I've spoken to another kinship group, and I speak to Children and Family Services in Cuyahoga County. They'll have me come out, corporate lunch and learn. It's just there's not enough in the day. And I was saying earlier before some of you jumped on, how busy. I've never been this busy, and I've been with the task force almost 3 years. School's back in session, problems are growing. The adults don't quite know what to do, but that's where I come in to try to provide some guidance and to give you kind of the red flags and things to look out for. The presentation I am giving you today is not the presentation that I give when I'm in the schools, because there are some tips and tricks that we'll go over a little bit later that, we don't want the kids to know that so it is a little bit different. And also, I have a different approach and different, different message for the younger kids as I do for the older kids. When it gets to with the older students, I'm a little more real with them. I'm a little more blunt and frank with them. The younger kids, they understand, but they we don't get into a lot. I don't want to scare them too much. I just try to talk to them about making good choices and the best decisions. So this is what I was just saying. 2020 wasn't our most stellar year. We were on pace to have a lot of presentations but the year before, I got able to reach over 18,000 students and adults with the message of internet safety. So a little bit more about our task force. You'll see here we have that mobile forensic unit. I mentioned we will go out on a search warrant. We will take this mobile forensic unit to that residence. That front door the first door there in the back of that truck, there are 3 forensic bays that our investigators can run forensics right on scene. We know someone has illegal, child abuse material. We know maybe they are, a offender previously, or they're on probation, whatever the case may be. So we know that there's something on those devices. So we come equipped with the truck. We come equipped with our investigators to run, forensics on that device right then and there. That back door there, that second door you'll see there, that's where we interview the suspect. We have a table in there, a small, unit in there where our investigators can talk to a suspect, whether we get a confession or just have them, however that, conversation may go. That is all recorded, and that is in the back of that mobile investigation unit. In the center there, you'll see our canine. Her name is Diana. Diana is one of 75 canines in the country who are trained to smell for electronic devices. Like a drug dog is trained to smell for drugs, or bomb dogs, smell explosives. Diana is trained to smell devices. There is a chemical compound and everything that holds memory. So, you will see these micro SD cards that are as big as your, or small as your pinky nail, to laptops and tablets and phones. But she is trained to smell those devices. So say we have a search warrant and, the investigators go through, they collect everything that they are legally allowed to collect. They will have the dog run through that residence one more time to see if there's anything they missed. It's easy to hide these devices. We have seen devices that are jump drives, but they look just like a Matchbox car or a Lego. Well, she'll find that with her nose. So again, it's a newer type of police canine. She has found over 200 devices throughout our 3 or we're maybe going on 4 years with her. So she is a huge asset to our task force. There are 3 of those types of canines in the state of Ohio. And finally, with training. So we run chat operations, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. And we train other law enforcement agencies how to safely and legally conduct in these online chats with possible, offenders. They pose as, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old boys and girls online. So, in order to not entrap, in order to make sure that these types of conversations are run by the book, we train in the legalities and things to look for and things that they can and can't say, when looking for, offenders who are out there. And basically, we're trying to get out there before these offenders because they're out there. So we're trying to kind of be that buffer and get to these types of folks before they get to our children. And finally, a little bit about us in my intro here. I also work with the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court on their Sexting Diversion program. I actually have a course tonight that I will be on virtual with 6 students up here in Northeast Ohio who had sexting issues, sharing nudes. It's a huge problem we're seeing. Trading in that material with other students, or maybe taking a photo and someone in a compromising position without their consent or knowledge, and then maybe airdropping it at school. We've seen it all. Kids don't understand the ramifications when they put these things out there online, that they are out there and what they are producing is essentially child sexual exploitation material because they are under the age of 18. So we want to go after like someone, we want to investigate and apprehend people like I showed you at the very beginning with our investigator. We don't want to have to, have our children go through these diversion or go through the, juvenile court system. We have the diversion program. So to educate them so they move forward and can make better decisions, because there can be some legal ramifications based on some of the things that these children are doing today. But we don't want them to have a record, or we don't want them to, have to go into juvenile detention for making, poor choices when it comes to mobile devices and some of the behavior that we're seeing. So it's more of an education program, and it's very successful. And our classes are getting bigger and bigger, unfortunately, but I'm glad that there is that option for our students. All right, so not so fake news. I'm going to show you some headlines, and some of these are from around the state of Ohio. The very top one: mom warns of social media dangers after teen dies. That it was up here in the Cleveland area. A young man went on a date with someone who he met through Instagram, and that person fed him, alcohol and drugs, and he unfortunately passed away as a result of that activity. Brunswick in Medina County. Girl meets a boy or a man online, and he moves in and stays under her bed for a few days before her parents figure out what's going on. Then the one underneath that was more in the Cincinnati area. The man allegedly raped teen while living under her bed for weeks. So these are, Lakewood man that's in Cuyahoga County here. That was a case that actually is going federal. He was, threatening. He was posing as a teen, which we see a lot, posing as a teen and gaining the trust of a child, having, sending nudes, and then threatening, wanting more and more and threatening to expose that child, for more, I'll send these to your family. I'll put these up on your school's website and Facebook page if you don't send me more. So basically counting on that student to be ashamed and humiliated, so they'll, submit to the demands and threats because they don't want to be exposed. That was one of those cases. So, we see this a lot, and I'm not here to scare you, and I want to assure you that I'm just showing you maybe some things that, headlines you might gloss over or are maybe just too afraid to take a peek at. But, these things happen, and I show the students this slide, and I say, this happens. These are not little kids that, who are the victims. These are junior high school students. These are, freshmen, sophomore, juniors in high school. They're kids, of all ages. So, it's out there, and these are some of the things that we see, and that I think it's important that they're aware of, and you are as well. I mentioned our chat ops. Okay, so over the course of the last 4 years, we have arrested 108 people. Each and every one of these individuals were arrested and indicted. Some were repeat offenders, some were sex offenders, from the age of 19 to 80. There is no, they all were chatting online with who they thought were minor children. And each and every one of these people showed up to a physical location here in Northeast Ohio for the purpose of engaging in sexual activity with a minor child. They brought with them guns, drugs. We saw rope, handcuffs, alcohol, firearms. It runs the gamut of what they're bringing to meet with these minor children. So instead of being greeted by a child, they were met by Homeland Security investigators who promptly arrested them, and they were booked into custody. And as I mentioned, and with our investigators talking to these people and engaging in conversations with these folks online posing as minor children, there is a proper way. We see vigilante groups out there all the time, and what they're looking for Facebook hits. They are looking for, and YouTube followers and clicks, because the more they get, they could make some money off of that. But what they really do is they, pardon my French, they screw it up for law enforcement, quite frankly, because there's not much we can do with those cases, because they entrap these individuals. And, with our investigators knowing how to talk to these people online and engaging in proper conversation, so we're able to have successful arrests and indictments, 108 out of 108 times. So, again, you'll notice, in all ages, all socioeconomic backgrounds, races, religions. These are people who live and work among us. Some of them are, in professional positions. Some of them, are just, are young and just starting their lives, but they are committing these felonies by, engaging in this type of behavior. And, and their intentions were to meet with a minor child, to engage in sexual activity, based on the conversations they were having, based on the photos they were exchanging with who they thought were children. So it's very concerning to us. So this is, we can go out there all day, every day, and chat with and chat with people like this and have arrests every day. And what is a little peculiar is, 1 year we'll arrest 27, and then the next year we'll say, oh well, they've got to be catching on by now. Maybe we won't get 27, but if we get 20, we'll be happy. Well, then we'll get 30. It's always more than what we anticipate. And we just did an op back in May, and that netted the arrest of 32. So, so these are just to kick this off, some of the things that we're out there doing, some of the things we're out there to try to be proactive. We'll talk about a little bit of the reactive situations, but that is these chat ops are some of the proactive investigations that we do. So is it worth the risk? You have to think, are you aware of the child's online presence? Are you up to date on apps? If they're talking about different apps, Instagram and TikTok, which I'm sure you've heard of. If they're talking about Fortnite or Minecraft, that those are games. Are you aware, are they on one app or are they on dozens of apps? Just to be aware of what is their screen name, what is their, their username, what are their passwords. So you have to be very aware, not of just maybe what they tell you, but what is actually going on their phone. And that's something we'll jump to here in a little bit. And are you prepared to deal with today's technology? And I know it's very overwhelming. It's overwhelming for all of us as adults, because, we didn't grow up with this. This is learning, and we're learning as we're going along. Whereas, children have never really not known a time where they haven't had this technology in their hands. So, if they are running around with the latest and greatest iPhone, and you have the flip phone, or, your 10 versions behind them, that's not necessarily a good thing. You really need to be up to date and up to speed and have technology as good as they have, if not better, because it is really, like I said, moving at a very quick pace. And, to be aware and to educate yourself is the number one thing that I cannot stress enough, is to stay on top of that. And finally, on the online dangers, I'm sure you're aware, you're here today, you showed up, you know that these things happen. And then I just shared some, prime examples with some headlines and some actual faces behind, some of the stories that you may hear or may think of the online dangers. So, so you are aware, and after today, like I said, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to just, empower you. That's the number one word I want to use, and have you walk away saying, wow, if I thought I knew, now I really know. Or wow, I didn't think it was, that, happened to that extent. So here is Omegle. So this is when we talk about in terms of dangerous, this is a website, it's not an app. So this is just something a child can jump onto. When we talk about in terms of things being a danger to kids, these are the things that you need to be also aware of. When I go into schools and we talk about apps, they all bring up Omegle, even the little kids. And if you'll see right there at the top, what does it say? Talk to strangers. So Omegle is encouraging you to talk to strangers. And I would like for you, if you can take note on the second paragraph there, predators, the last line, predators have been known to use Omegle, so please be careful. So that is like their due diligence to say, hey, we warned you that this could happen. And they don't need a username. They don't have to register for an account. It is something they can just jump right on. And you see there in the lower corner, they can just jump right on and start talking or texting or video chatting with someone immediately. And, what do you want to talk about? Predators out there, they know what kids want to talk about. They know what are hot button topics. They know if someone wants to talk about Fortnite, gaming sites, they could just type that in. They can type their area. They can type sports, musical acts, musicians, popular acts today. And that'll kind of, narrow it, down for some of these predators to say, well, I'm going to narrow it down because I know kids like to talk about this, or people who are young enough like to talk about that. And a site like this can stay up and running perfectly legal, because when, you have to be 18, 13 with parental permission. You have to be 18 or 13 with parental permission. So someone could just hit and say, oh yeah, I'm 13 and yeah, sure, I'm allowed to be on here. Well, if they didn't have permission, they just broke the terms of service. And if they say they're 18 or over, that's also breaking the terms of service, because I don't think there is a parent or guardian out there who will let a 13-year-old or someone younger than 13 go on this website. So by breaching those terms of service, Omegle is kind of in the clear, because, it's like that contract by, when you click and you say, hey, I'm over 18, or I have that permission, and they're not, and they're, not being honest about that, then that kind of keeps Omegle in the clear. So for the purpose of this presentation, our commander and one of our criminal analysts, they jumped on Omegle, say, what is this all about? And they just hit random stranger, and random stranger says, hi, how are you? Want some fun? Which is kind of internet chat for, let's talk about sex. And then, oh, I'm sorry, I should have I did not block that. I usually block that last word out that usually has a bar over it. I'm sorry about that, but how egregious that is, and I do apologize. That is how egregious these conversations can be. And that is the very first click that, two grown adults saw and couldn't, believe their eyes. So, it is known to have, to have graphic content on there like you just saw. And I'm so sorry about that. I'm sorry. So it has some graphic content like that. But that just shows you how easy these things are at these children's fingertips, which is, it's scary. So that's why to protect yourself, protect them, empower yourself, is to really know about these types of things. So we know that they're on, we talked about their profiles and apps, and that, are you aware of their online presence? their online friends, and we put friends in quotes for a reason. I think when, hey, I have Facebook friends, or I have followers or subscribers, that sets children up with a very false sense of security from the jump. They have this feeling, oh, they follow me on Instagram, it's fine. Oh, they follow me online. That it gives them that sense of, I know this person knows me. And then we're going to talk about a couple of the hot button topics, and that is sexting and cyberbullying, because those are the two things in the schools. And like I said, with my diversion program, and why our cyber tips are going through the roof is mainly because of sexting and some of that behavior. But as you can see with some things that they are exposed to at such an early age, some of these behaviors to them they're normal. They're kind of desensitized to some things that are out there. So they feel, freer to maybe take that nude or to send a photo and not think that it's a big deal, because they've been seeing that for a long time. They're exposed to that type of content and when they're out there. All right, so look familiar. And I'm sure the top row looks very familiar to a lot of you. So these are some of the most popular apps that children are on today. The first one, TikTok. When I show this slide in schools, the kids go crazy. They stand up, they're saying them, they know them. The room gets such a huge rise. They are on these apps. They are on Instagram. The third one there is YouTube, and then Snapchat, of course, and Facebook and Twitter. We have at the bottom row with the A, that is called Amino. We have Monkey, we have House Party, Whisper, and the final three are gaming apps for Twitch and Discord. So again, when I show these in schools, we read them aloud. I say, follow me along, and we read them and we go through them. And when it comes to TikTok, the decibels go way up. And same thing that happens with Fortnite, Twitch, and Discord, the gaming apps. So why are we showing just these? I mean, it's because these are some of the more popular apps that we're seeing that kids are on today, but because these are some of, as a task force, some of the apps that we are having, we're seeing more problems with when it comes to cyber tips. And I'll explain that in a moment, but so I'll go into cyber tips. So I'm going to give you an example, and it is a very dangerous trend that we're seeing, and I'm going to use YouTube as an example. So we are seeing a very dangerous trend of children getting younger and younger, self-exploiting. So that is, they're, videotaping themselves in a state of nudity. They are uploading those videos to YouTube for the whole world to see, whoever comes across it, whatever keywords they might be putting in. So these children are putting, say, these videos up on YouTube, and YouTube, which is owned by Google, they have artificial intelligence, they have algorithms to flag, all photos, videos, things they have what a hash value. So it gets a little technical, but they are able to flag some of this material. If it's child sexual abuse material, a video a child produces, if it's a photo a nude that a student shares on Snapchat, some of those that artificial intelligence and algorithms can flag that material. They'll pull that material offline, and they have to report it to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. So we work on the exploited children part. So I'm sure you've heard of them. So the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children then reviews. So it's federal law that they have to report that. They don't by federal law, they don't have to look for it, but when it's flagged, then they have to, view that and then report it. So what happens then, they send that report to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children that there's apparent child pornography, CSAM, sexual abuse material that has been reported. It will geolocate that IP address to, say, Franklin County or the Columbus metropolitan area. So I'm just going to use that, Central Ohio. So National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and they'll say, well, then this belongs to the Ohio Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. So we in Cuyahoga County, our office up here gets that cyber tip. So Google flags that material. They send that over to National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They see that it belongs to Ohio, that geolocated to the state of Ohio, comes to our office here in Cuyahoga County. So cyber tips. So there's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That might ring a bell, that logo there. So they send that to us. So back in 2013, say we would get, a little over 2,200. So the task force has been around since '99, but I just pulled the past, few years for the sake of this slide, just to the measure, because, maybe we were down in the hundreds, upper hundreds, cyber tips that were reported, things that were reported from the electronic service provider to the National Center that came into our office for review. So we're going up a little bit here in 2015. And then 2020 with the pandemic, with everyone home, our cyber tips went up over, 36%, 38%. So we were over 10,000 cyber tips in 2020. And we are on pace for 2021, even with schools being out, they're out of control. We are going to beat that number again, this year when it's all said and done. So each and every one of these cyber tips is investigated by our office. So what does that consist of? Child sexual abuse material and self-produced, that content, sexting, the self-exploitation that children are doing, whether, like I said, whether it's that little kid who thinks that they are going to get more followers or, on YouTube, because that's why they do it. Our officers have to go to their homes, they have to identify the child, and there's a conversation with the adult and the child. And they say, well, I'm a YouTuber, or I want subscribers. So, so that's some of the reasoning that, some of these children have. The older kids who know that they probably shouldn't be doing this, or don't think that it's that big of a deal, don't realize that, once that photo is out there, it is out there. And that is exchanged through so many different channels and so many different apps, because of people who, because they're, sharing their personal information. They are allowing, these strangers, their friends in quotes, they're allowing these people into their social media feeds. And, which now they're exposing their family and friends, and their numbers, these numbers are so important to students to have as many followers and friends and subscribers, that they are, they're putting themselves out there, what they're doing, who they're with, where they're going, what they're eating, what they're wearing, who they're wearing, their labels and brands, they want the clout and the followers. And then they'll accept people that have things in common with them, or people who maybe they think they have something in common with. It's people posing as someone who they think they have something in common with. I'm going to go back to that case, that headline I showed you from Lakewood. The young lady, lets this person into her social media, her digital life. Well, now this perpetrator now knows who her family and friends are. And when he started asking for more and more photos and videos and started threatening her, she got scared and blocked him. So what did he do? He started turning to her friends saying, hey, I started threatening their friends. I'm going to expose your friend if you don't start sending me photos. So, it's not just exposed. She didn't just put herself, in harm's way and expose herself. It's exposing friends and exposing, putting her friends, and one of her friends actually was the one who reported him to authorities. And that's how, we were able to find the IP address and the investigators in Connecticut, their ICAC unit did some investigation, which found out that that was an IP address that came from Ohio, here in Cuyahoga County. So these online dangers, sharing too much personal information, online friends, their user-generated content, the things that they are putting out there that can put them in harm's way, and their default location sharing. They are putting, their location. I live in, Reynoldsburg. I live in Dayton. I live in, Lorraine. They, a lot of these apps have maps and pins that show, exactly where you are when you're producing that content. That just really opens the door to this online exploitation. This is a case, this is a true matter that was here, I believe in Portage County here in Ohio, where this photo was used and generated to gain the attention and trust of, students. And in reality, they fell for it, sending photos, thinking that, they have this girlfriend online or whatever the case may be, and I show this to students. I said, this, the older kids, I say, hey, this is who you think you're talking to, but this is who you're really talking to, because you have zero ways of knowing who you're talking to. Unless you know that person in real life, you have really no way of knowing who that person is. So this is just a classic example, because this man knows he can't go online and say, hey, will you friend me? Can I follow you on Instagram? Can I follow you on Snapchat? He knows that he can't go out looking the way he does and who he is and have children and, teens follow him. So, it's just important that students understand that you can understand that, they can easily find their victims this way, because, these people can mold themselves and their personalities and their online personas to be exactly who your children, who they really are. So, your kid, the kids, they like football. So, so does this new online persona. These types of people cast a very, very wide net to attract as many students as possible. And, they might get past some kids saying, oh, I don't want to, this doesn't look right to me, but, it's just that the fact that they are out there and they do look for someone who's vulnerable or having a bad day. And then they are patient, like that last point there, manipulative, grooming, oh, I understand you, I'm having a bad day too. So they kind of maybe look for that person who is the most vulnerable out of all the friends. So you have to think about grooming and what it means and how these people can, reach out to your children, gain their trust, and become friends with them, for not the greatest purposes. We'll go back to the Lakewood case with the suspect in Lakewood. The girl thought that was someone she could trust, and she's sending very explicit photos and videos of herself, thinking that this is someone I connect with. This is someone I know or I feel like I can trust. But then again, when things started getting, when, the red flags start going up, I want more and more and more. And then it made her feel uncomfortable. Well, she did for, a reason in the first place, that maybe she thought she had to, or maybe she wanted to because she thought she trusted this person. So that's what happens, in a grooming situation, so that's how that happens. And it, like I said, patient, manipulative over long periods of time. These things don't happen overnight. And I don't want to say how to prevent, maybe that's not the right word, but just know who they're chatting with. Know, again, it's getting back to that very first know their online activity. Keep a lookout for that abnormal behavior. And I always bring this up, and I kind of pull it and talk to the adults about this, because I did this presentation a while ago, and one of the moms stood up and said, hey, this is real because this happened to me. This is why I'm here tonight. I want to learn more about how much more I can be proactive. My 13-year-old daughter is being groomed. I had this moody 13-year-old girl, and she went, she was just, she said her words, oh, she was just awful. And, she was just the typical 13-year-old moody, rolling her eyes all the time. And then all of a sudden she's on cloud 9 and she's nice and her demeanor changes. And she said, she thought to herself, what she's acting like, and then it dawned on her, she's acting like she's in love. And went through the kiddo's phone, and sure enough, she was being groomed by someone who wasn't even trying to hide who he was. He was an older person, and she thought that, this man made her feel special. And, so she, mom puts a stop to it, but she said that, the girl was in love, and it was very hard, put a very bad strain on their relationship and trust. But that's what made her that red flag, raised awareness, like there's something that is not right. This is a different type of kid that I know. So she said that is, so I bring that up and tell that story, and she allowed me to share that with other adults. Gifts, potential gifts. Someone grooming a child might send them a burner phone and say, hey, this is our special phone number. This is something between us. Or they might send them, clothing or jewelry or little items or gifts. So these are just things that, to be aware of that could be potential signs of, a child being groomed. We're going to gaming. This is confusing to some kids when I talk to them in schools. What could be wrong with gaming? Well, online, predators, they are known to groom kids online. We do get a lot of, like I showed you earlier, Discord, Fortnite, Twitch, all these, very popular gaming. There's Roblox down there. I think adults see that these kids are gaming and these personas that they see online, these icons, that they forget who might be on the other side of that. Predators know that young children game. A grown adult man or woman could get online and game with a small kid on Roblox. Younger kids play that game. So it's just to be aware of, if they are gaming, that, that you can hear who they're talking to and know the game they're playing and who they're playing, or set, those, the privacy settings to only allow them to play with people who they know in real life. Because it's very, like I said, easy to get away from thinking that they're just gaming, and you see like these characters and forget who may be on the other end. We're also seeing, live streaming. There's a bunch of different live streaming apps. Kids love to live stream now. You have to make them aware and be aware. So there's just a young girl and she's talking and she's, with her, gummy bears, but kids have to realize what's in the background. Are they out in the front yard? Is the address, showing where they live, or a street? Are there valuables in the home? Are there vulnerable people in the home? Are there babies or elderly people in the house? Kids sometimes when they send that, that selfie, they're so hyper aware of what they look like that they're making mistakes, and they're not really paying attention to what's in the background or who their audience is. So if they're live streaming, who are they live streaming to, and who are they showing that content? So if they're on any of these platforms or like to live stream, make sure you're present, make sure that, that they are, that they become aware. You teach them, like, look, take a look around before you jump online to see what other people are seeing, what you might be missing. Take a good look at the background. And, they want that, like I said, they want the likes, they want the subscribers. And this is how easy it is for a child to just jump on YouTube and hit that record button. It is that easy just to go live and record and upload. And they know how to do all these things. It's just that easy. I think the record button and then the live button. So they can take their stream and what's going on in your household, or, if they're with their friends, we don't want to take the fun and the creativity out of some things that they're doing online. But again, it's making them aware. And just for you to see at a touch of a button how easy it is for them to record something or just jump online and live stream. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, just a moment ago, about the location settings. Especially like Snapchat. This is a couple of our employees downtown, and they are downtown Cleveland at the Justice Center where the prosecutor's office is located. And it is showing exactly where they are. They're both on Snapchat at this particular time, and they were live. And you see there's, Lexi's listening to music. Valera's just kind of standing there hanging out with her for the purpose of this slide, but it's showing exactly where they are. And kids love this. And it'll show if they're in a car, if they're on Snapchat and their, location settings are not set properly, they will, show where they're driving. If you're there in a car with you, where you are, where you live, where they're going to school, if they're at a friend's house, a relative's house. So it puts other people in a vulnerable situation. So we let, say, because there are ways that they can just tell people, if they want to keep that Snap map on, if that's important to them, then only to allow people who they know in real life, and that would be immediate friends and family, to know who they are, where they are, but to block every, that location setting from other people. There's EXIF data on photos. They take a picture and they're sending it to people who maybe they don't know, or they're just sending pictures out. There's a stamp on the back of, if their location settings are not set to private, everything should be on private. That there is a map and a pin showing exactly where that photo was taken. So location and privacy settings are huge to have that, to protect you, to protect them. There's, yeah, these little maps are cute and they're fun, but they can also pose a danger to people who you don't know. So there's a ghost mode, and that's in the settings on, on all, this is just Snapchat, but there's settings on all the apps that, you can hide your location or share it with people who you know in real life. And again, I would limit that to immediate family and friends. Okay, and this, this is something we're seeing, and it's something to be aware. I'm not saying that all kids are doing these things, but it's good to know that you'll see that first example there on Instagram. You'll see that's our Ohio_ICAC. That's our ICAC Instagram. So what kids like to do is they say, oh, parents and guardians, they have this false sense of security. Oh, I'm following them. They let me follow them on Instagram. I must be cool. They must think I'm all right. When in fact, most kids have what they call Finstagrams, a Finsta account, and that's fake Instagram. So a Finsta is what a lot of kids have. So they want you to follow the account that they want you to know about. But if you'll see right there where that arrow is, where you see that Ohio_ICAC, and you see that little caret there, that little arrow pointing down, the red arrow is pointing that little caret there. If you pull that down, like we did for this slide, you'll see there's Canine Diana. That's her Instagram account. So it's just as easy for them underneath that plus sign to add an account. And we've seen kids with a dozen Finstas. They have different personas, or they're trying to be something different to different groups of people. So if, when you get your hands on their phone or you go through and you do a check, make sure if there's that arrow, you go into their Instagram account, you see that little caret there, there's more than one account. All right. So this is one of the reasons why I told you this is a different presentation that we show you versus showing the students, because we don't want them to, we don't want them to know that this stuff. So what is Snapchat? What are they doing on Snapchat to hide content? They're using what is called a My Eyes Only account. So in their memories, so, they think snaps disappear. Snaps don't always disappear. Trust me, we get our share of cyber tips from Snapchat, and they think that everything goes away. But students are putting photos they want to keep, and they're hiding them. They're putting them away in the My Eyes Only. And so they set it to no limit. They put it My Eyes Only so that photo will, remain. It will not dissipate. It will not disappear. And in My Eyes Only, it is a password protected kind of backdoor in the memories section of their Instagram. I'm sorry, of their Snapchat. So in Snapchat, you can go through memories. You'll see where it says stories and camera roll and different things. My Eyes Only. If they have a My Eyes Only account, they're storing private snaps and private content that they don't want to disappear, and they don't want you to see. All right, Vault applications. Now, Vault applications, you may have heard of these. It started out with the popular secret calculator. So Vault applications, when you look at their phone and you see just that, little icon for a calculator, if there's more than one, chances are they have a Vault, because no one likes math that much that they would have more than one calculator. So the factory installed calculator on a phone can't be deleted. It stays right where it is. And then, so there would be a second calculator if they are indeed hiding something in a calculator app. But now there are dozens of apps that are Vault apps. The one that you see there, Vaulty. So if you say you are going through a phone and there's one calculator, so you're good, you're kind of just doing a check, and then you come across that white V in a red square, like that would look like it would be a game, like something that, like, maybe online gaming. You might not pay attention to it. You might just kind of go past it. But that is another example of a Vault app. But if you are going and you're seeing these icons that you don't know what they are, it's a good idea to Google it. And you could Google, red square icon with a white V, what app is that, or just, Google top vault apps and you'll see that. Now, vault apps are password protected. They will hide if you don't want them to be in certain, if they're not, if you don't want them to be on TikTok, they can hide their TikTok in a vault. They can hide folders, photos, videos. They can hide things that they don't want you to see in a vault. And again, they're password protected. That's, there's no reason for a child to have a password protected vault app. The calculator app is so sophisticated that it acts just like a regular calculator. You can go in there and work math on that, and it is a regular calculator. But then they put in their password and it'll open up to the content. You can see that those hidden files and different things that are in there, and the same with the vaulty. So my advice would be, anytime you see something on the child's phone and you don't know what that icon is, it's a good idea to Google what it might be, or Google what it is, and find out what that is. All right, so I mentioned the hot button topics a little bit earlier, are sexting and cyberbullying, and they are, and it's, sexting is such a problem in schools. And I hate to say that. I touched on it at the beginning. I told you about the diversion program, but a student, they take a photo of themselves, they share it, they receive it, view it, keep it. Each and every one of those things, is a felony, under the state of Ohio. So they take that photo, they just created it, they're sharing it, that's dissemination, they're keeping it, they're in possession. So we just, we don't want them to do that. It is against the law. A lot of them don't know that it is against the law. And I see some looks on some faces when I'm talking to the students. Some of them actually know it is and do it anyway by thinking they're not going to get caught. But, we just want to keep it, we just want to prevent those photos from being out there, from getting in the wrong hands. We have students at AirDrop Photos. Kids right now are exchanging their passwords, and they are falling. I mean, I've seen more friends fall out of, friendships in a blink of an eye. They're sharing passwords, they're creating fake accounts, they're creating, not very flattering accounts of friends, or they're finding something on their friend's phone and they're airdropping it. It's these things are all what I'm seeing in the sexting diversion classes. So, and as I mentioned earlier, we want to educate the kids. We don't want them to have to go through juvenile court. We don't want them to have to register as a sex offender. We want them to just have this information, because once they hit send, they can't get that photo back, and it's not up to them who sees it after that. They think that they're sending to someone who maybe they love or trust. But again, that person can break that trust, and then it's everywhere. And, a lot of these sex offenders and people who we see, and, we, confiscate their devices. There's a lot of, photos of these kids from all over, on their phones, on their devices. So again, once they hit send, once they upload that video, and they think it's a good idea, there's just nothing they can do once it's out there, So it's always a good idea to talk to them about that, being honest, and, if they did a thing or something happens, just to be, understanding as much as you can, unless it's a chronic problem. But it's just kind of, there's a lot of peer pressure to do these things. I talk to the boys and girls about not even asking. You're asking someone to commit a crime. You're asking, someone sends you something that you didn't ask for. They think it's funny and they're sharing these photos. Well, now you just put someone at risk, because now they are in possession of this material. So it's just very important that, they understand just the seriousness and how important it is. And it's also important for them to know about bullying, and what a problem bullying is in schools, and for them to kind of take the high road and, stick up for the bully. And if they are the bully, to knock it off. Bullying is a big problem in schools. That 37% have been bullied online. Okay, that's the good news. Bad news. Good news is, last year when I did these presentations, that number was 42%. Now it's at 37. So are we moving in the right direction? I think we are a little bit, but I still think that students have a lot of work to do when it comes to, you know, their digital footprint and being kind online. All right. Adults in the lives, they need to monitor what their kids are doing, monitor, you know, Google Play, you know, if you have Samsung Pay, Google Pay, you know, they can just buy an app or, you know, purchase things with that credit card information already in the phone. Keep an eye on those charges, create accounts with them. If you don't know how something is used, you know, tell me about TikTok. How is it used? Show me, you know, can we do one together? You know, it's that open dialogue is the most important thing. You know, there's good monitoring software out there, but you know, as a task force, we say, what's the best monitoring software? It's you. So know their usernames, know their passwords, and I know that they're going to fuss. I know it's hard to ask for that sometimes, or it's hard to get that information from them. But you know, for their safety, it's really important. And you know, to keep these dialogues started at an early age. Don't, you know, I mean, it's just have them, you know, try to get to the point where you feel that there can be a good open dialogue, you know, without judgment. And you know, there are a lot of pressures online, and to just be aware of that and to know what they're going through online, you know, and just kind of have that understanding. You know, that's very important, but really know, you know, what they're doing, and ask to be involved in it. And boundaries, it's very important to set some boundaries, time limits. You know, we don't use our devices at the dinner table, no devices after a certain time. You know, the two most dangerous rooms for a child and their device, the bedroom and the bathroom. So we have, you know, we encourage for you to maybe charge the phones in your room or in a common area in the house. Get them an alarm clock. They say, oh, we need it for the alarm. Well, no, you can buy them. You can, there's other alarms. So they don't have those phones in the middle of the night, because a lot of the cyber tips we're getting are dark, grainy photos of these kids in the middle of the night in their bedroom, in their bathroom, you know, taking these photos and uploading them. Do not delete things. You know, if there is someone's threatening a child, asking for more photos, like the example that I've shared with you a few times, don't retaliate, don't be a vigilante, or conduct your own investigations. Report any type of this, you know, if you have a minor child and someone's asking them for photos or sending them photos, you know, as much information as you can gather, keep it and make a, you know, police report. And then we ask you to make a cyber tip, and you know, if you make a cyber tip to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, you can call it in, you can do a cyber tip report online, let them know the law enforcement agency with whom you've made that report. And here are, you know, the 24-hour hotline, and it is, yeah, that's the 24-hour hotline. And it's very easy to get in touch with them and to file any type of reports should you run into any problems or you feel you need, you know, National Center or your local law enforcement to step in. The cyber tip coming from the state of Ohio, once the cyber tip is made, it will funnel to our agency. And I know I just threw a lot at you, and I apologize. There's just so much to talk about. I'm very passionate about this, and but at the same time, I'm just very hopeful, you know, that you know, that you've learned something. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to stick around.
Thank you. Awesome. Are there any questions or comments? There was nothing in the chat, so you can just ask if you have a question.
I have a question, Kathleen. Sure. In the beginning, you talked about the task force investigates and prosecutes cybercrime against children, but do you also look at other vulnerable populations like disabled, mentally challenged, the elderly, when these things happen to them?
No, our task force is specifically investigates when it comes to children, anyone under the age of 18. There are special task forces. I I believe that help vulnerable populations. I've been asked on several occasions to come out and at least talk to the Cuyahoga County Board for Developmental Disabilities. I've been out and have spoken to some of their population, but we typically, just about, crimes and being, and not sending, to exploit themselves, because they are a very vulnerable population. But that is not our target. That's not who we typically investigate, or we investigate anything against children.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
I just have a comment real quick. I make it quick. This is Lenora Lumpkin out of Franklin County. And this presentation was very, very informative. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm overwhelmed, but it's a good overwhelm. And I see now, and I'm raising 2 hyper teenage boys. No, there's 10 and 7, and they stay on their phone. And I do ask questions, but after this, I need to ask more questions. I know they game a lot, but I didn't even realize about gaming. So this was very informative. I enjoyed it. I need to step up my game as a grandmother and ask more questions about their games. Like I said, I do ask questions, but after this, yeah, they may not like me.
That's okay.
So I enjoyed this. I, as a grandmother, getting back on the scene, raising grandkids, I knew some of this stuff, but oh, wow, I'm overwhelmed. And yeah, we might have some problems in my household, but it was good. I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. I know. And I hate to overwhelm, but there's so much. I mean, and this is kind of, this is my world. So I can talk about this all day, every day, but it's what we see. And it's really, it's the truth. So just, but showing up and being here today and being proactive is really the best thing you could do.
I enjoyed it. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
One of the great things too is that this will be at some point posted on our website, Ohio Grandparent Kinship Care Coalition. And you can find this and other previous meetings that we've had over the year. Just to quickly share an experience that I had with one of my parishioners. And one of the things that I think is good to know is not just the kid, teenagers get caught up too in this. And we had a 17-year-old girl at the church, met a guy on Facebook and lured her from Akron to another city where we could not find her for about 30 days. We made reports with the police department. Her parents got involved. They just didn't know where she was. The last thing they saw were a truck standing behind her and a guy standing in front of her, blocking her, and she was gone. That's all. And this was last year. 30 days later, she showed up at a friend's house in a different part of the city, pregnant. Okay, and so never could find out who snatched her, who took her, whether it's good or bad. She did have a miscarriage, so she didn't have to go through a traumatized pregnancy, but it's real. And like I said, this young lady, she was 17 and still was able to be lured away by meeting somebody on Facebook. This just happened last year, so it is real.
I know. They're really good at what they do.
Before I get cut off, I might lose my signal here. I'm Candy. I live in Delaware County. I have a 15-year-old granddaughter. I have an app on her phone and my phone called 360 Life that tracks wherever she's at. So those of you have, kids with phones, you might want to put that on their phone. That way you know exactly where they're at. I mean, I can watch her go around to a drive-through in a restaurant. From the time they pull in till they go around the circle to the window. Hey, I mean, I know where she's at all the time.
What is it called again?
It's called 360 Life.
360 Life.
Yeah.
It's a free app if you pay, but I mean, I'm not going to get the premium till she starts driving herself. But I know where she's at 24/7.
That's popular, that, and there's one, but I believe Bark, B-A-R-K is another popular app. And I'm going to send some resources
Good.
that could be shared with everyone. I'll send those over this afternoon.
Any other questions or comments, please? No other comments or questions for our speakers? A great presentation. I learned a whole
Thank you.
lot.
Oh, and I would like to, our office, we're in the transition of moving, so that is that phone number is no longer valid, but the email address is the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay.
If anyone has any other questions or needs to get a hold of me, or if you'd like me to come back, it's the best way.
Siobhan, I saw you lit up. Do you have a question?
No, I didn't have a question.
Okay. I
Thank you
want
for
to
everything.
acknowledge Dr. Annetta Wilson from Chicago, Illinois. She was on, I'm not sure if she's still on the line, but she was on. Just wanted to acknowledge her. If there aren't any other questions, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for the wealth of information that you brought today. It is something that we who have children and grandchildren need to be aware of so that we can ensure the safety as they're on these various social media spots. And, you know, and most children do have some type of cell phone or iPad or Chromebook. So thank you so very much. Anything that Ron Browder or Barb or Lynn or Siobhan, any of the officers want to say before we end this session? You have the opportunity.
No, Kathleen, you did a fabulous job as usual. We appreciate it.
Thank
I
you.
did want to say that Dr. Wilson is still on the call on the webinar, so I didn't know if you wanted to give her an opportunity to say something.
Yes, I do.
Dr. Jones.
Dr. Wilson, would you like to say something, please?
I would just like to say this was wonderful and gave me a lot of different ideas of what some of the things that we need to bring forth. And I'm going to talk to staff about this so that we make sure that we add this component to our support groups.
Thank you. And thank you for being a part. Really,
Well, thank you
Appreciate
for
you being here.
inviting me, honey. I appreciate it.
thank you.
And the next Zoom meeting will be November the 17th. We will get more information out as we get closer to the meeting, but mark your calendars now for that meeting, the same time, 1 to 2:30. And thank you, Kathleen.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And please share the information with your friends and your colleagues and your family members to invite them to be a part of the process. Information sometimes goes beyond just being a grandmother. It just life information that you can use on a day-to-day basis. So thank you so very much for your time. Have a great rest of the afternoon. And Kathleen, once again, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.